All right, let's talk about what's in that glass of beer you might be holding. Believe it or not, we're about to uncap an incredible, millennia spanning story. Seriously, it's a journey that's going to take us from the literal dawn of civilization all the way to that craft brewery right down your street. So, I've got a question for you. What's really in your mug? Yeah, I know water, malt, hops, yeast, but it's so much more than that. You're actually holding liquid history. I'm talking about a drink that has shaped our world in ways you probably have never even imagined. So, where do we even start? Well, our story begins not with some big invention, but a happy accident. You see, beer wasn't really created, it was more stumbled upon. Just think about it. Some grain mash or maybe a piece of bread gets left out, it gets wet, and boom, it starts to ferment. It was, quite literally, liquid bread. And when I say ancient, I mean ancient. We're talking as far back as 4000 BCE. The Sumerians over in Mesopotamia, they were brewing. We've actually found these ancient clay tablets that show people drinking from a huge communal jar with these long reed straws. And get this, it wasn't some kind of party trick. It was the only way to get past all the thick, chunky sediment of grain floating on top. But what's really fascinating is just how central beer was to their entire culture. I mean, this was not just a party drink, it was sacred. The Sumerians actually worshipped Ninkasi, the goddess of beer, and the hymns they wrote to her, they were really just brewing recipes disguised as poetry. I mean, can you imagine that? A recipe that's also a prayer? That's pretty amazing. Okay, so from there, let's jump over to ancient Egypt. This is where beer evolves from just a sacred drink into a pillar of the entire economy. You could even argue it became more essential than bread itself in some ways. And the scale here, it's just staggering. You know the laborers who built the Great Pyramids? They weren't paid in money. Nope, they were paid in beer. We're talking 4 to 5 liters a day. And this wasn't just to, get a buzz. It was a crucial source of calories and nutrition that literally fueled the construction of one of the greatest wonders of the world. So you might be asking, why beer? Why not just water? Well, here's the thing. Beer was often safer than drinking water straight from the Nile. The whole fermentation process killed off a ton of harmful bacteria, which made it a super reliable source of hydration for absolutely everyone, yep, even kids. In a lot of cases, it was a life-saving staple. And let me tell you, they took their beer quality very seriously. I'm not kidding. Over in nearby Babylon, the famous Code of Hammurabi laid down the law. If a bartender was caught cheating customers on the quality of their beer, the penalty wasn't a fine. It was death by drowning. Yeah, don't mess with a Babylonian's beer. All right, let's fast forward a bit. As the ancient empires fell, the heart of brewing kind of shifts over to medieval Europe. And here, a whole new group becomes the master innovators, monks. Yep, monks. And in their quiet monasteries, they were about to kick off the single biggest revolution in the entire history of beer. So what was this revolution? Well, before the Middle Ages, beer was flavored with this herbal mixture called Grut. But then the monks started experimenting with hops, and this was a total game changer. Hops didn't just add that bitter, aromatic flavor we know today, they were also a fantastic natural preservative. All of a sudden, beer could last way longer, and you could actually ship it. This whole hops thing became so important that it was literally written into law. You've probably heard of the famous Bavarian purity law of 1516, the Reinheitsgebot. It basically decreed that real beer could only be made from 3 things: water, barley, and hops. The funny part is, they didn't even know about yeast yet, and that one law pretty much defined what beer was for the next 500 years. Okay, so the next huge leap forward wasn't powered by prayer this time, but by steam. The Industrial Revolution hits in the 19th century, and it completely transforms brewing from, a small craft into a massive global industry. You can really think of it as this cascade of inventions hitting one after another. First, you've got the steam engine, which mechanized all the heavy lifting in breweries. Then came artificial refrigeration, which was huge. It meant brewers could make those cold fermented lagers all year round. And then, of course, Louis Pasteur's discovery of pasteurization meant beer could be stored for ages and shipped all over the world. So what's the result of all this new tech, plus the new railways connecting everything? Well, the world was basically flooded with crisp, pale lagers. Think of the Pilsner style that first showed up in 1842. For the very first time in history, one style of beer could be made the exact same way everywhere, and and it just exploded. It quickly became the most popular beer on the entire planet. But you know, this global domination, it came with a price. As we moved into the 20th century, huge corporations started to prioritize consistency and low cost over everything else, especially over character and flavor. This led to an age of, well, kind of boring beer. And that, right there, sparked a powerful counter-movement. And this was really the core conflict of the modern beer story. On one side, the goal of mass-market beer was to minimize cost, which often meant using cheaper stuff like rice and corn. On the other side, you have the craft beer revolution, which was a direct rebellion against that idea. Their goal was simple: maximize flavor by getting back to high-quality malt and hops. And these revolutionaries, man, they were armed with creativity. They started embracing these intensely aromatic American hops that smelled like citrus and pine, stuff nobody was using before. They dug up and resurrected all these forgotten historical styles. They experimented with literally everything: fruits, spices, wild yeast, you name it. And through it all, they championed the return of the small, local, independent brewery. And that brings us right back to today. I mean, just think about this journey. From a sacred hymn for the Sumerians, to the actual currency that built the pyramids, to something studied by monks in monasteries, and then a product of industrial might. Beer has never, ever been just a drink. It's always been a reflection of us, of our history. So I'll leave you with this question. If beer helped build entire civilizations, what do you think its next revolution is going to build?